Okay, very good. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to share or comment on this morning? Any questions?
I have a share and a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so well, actually two things. I was not feeling very peppy this morning. And so it was useful because, just going through the tapping, I was starting to feel so much better. I was like, this is amazing. I'm just tapping and, I was kind of looking for freedom, like you said, looking for flow and movement and feeling kind of like just stagnation in the energy, the way the energy is flowing. But that was really cool. I was grateful to be doing the practice while I wasn't feeling great, because that was a really cool contrast. And then the other thing I noticed is, recently I've been bringing my attention to the quality of my attention, and where I struggle sometimes with being distracted by my physical environment, like if it's cluttered or something like that. And today I noticed I wasn't distracted by it in the same way. I mean, I was, but I didn't feel the same pull. And it made me really realize that you get what you practice. So I realized I had been practicing being distracted and, kind of shifting my focus to the kind of attention I wanted. It didn't actually take as long as I thought. And I just was kind of struck by that. So those are my observations this morning. And then my question has to do with the chiing while, you're doing the squats in the conditioning, and you're bringing your arms up over, and I've been doing that and kind of feeling for the breath and the chi, but it's not, it's very, it's kind of unsatisfying what's happening. So I was wondering if you had any more, like, if you could share what you're noticing in your own system when that happens, or if I just need to explore with the vague feelings, that's great too. I'm happy to do that and build on those.
Okay, very good. So the question itself is on the conditioning exercise when I'm doing the squats with the chi movements in the beginning, and when I'm bringing my hands up, where you're not really experiencing much and you're wondering what you're supposed to be looking for. So that's the question. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Yes, okay, good. Okay, so it's kind of interesting. Like, I kind of really liked your comment this morning, how you said that when you notice that it doesn't take that long to shift the quality of your attention. That doesn't that seem like a significant statement even to yourself?
Yeah, it makes me go, well, what other areas can I do this in? Because that's really cool.
Right. So, the quality of your attention, when your quality of your attention shifts, or where you place your attention shifts, everything shifts instantaneously, right?
Yes.
So, it's kind of interesting. Your attention determines everything. So if your attention itself feels right and happy, then your life is happy, because it's through our attention what we notice. So traditionally it says that basically a simplified way of saying is that what you focus on is what you get. That's another way of saying it. So it's kind of like you'll notice in the tradition, one of the biggest emphasis is actually on what you place your attention on. So, it's kind of like, are you placing your attention on what's not happening, or are you placing your attention on what you want to happen? And so, right, it's kind of like, if you're placing your attention on what's not happening, then you have a self-fulfilling prophecy, as people would say. So, like, if you are afraid that you're going to lose something, since you're focusing without realizing on losing, you're gonna lose that. But then if you are focusing on, I don't want to say positive, it's actually not the right way, but if you're focusing on, let's say, for instance, as you're tapping on the freedom, isn't that interesting? Like the feeling of freedom, you got more freedom. And so you really get what you focus on. And so that's kind of like a starting point. So to answer your question, it's like, it depends on what you're focusing on. So as you're doing that exercise, my question to you is, what were you focusing on? That's the first. And the reason I actually give such a vague answer, or seemingly vague answer, it's actually the most specific answer and the most pinpointed answer one person can give, because it doesn't get more pinpointed than your attention. If you think about it, it's so singular, right? I mean, like, right? It's kind of like, and not only, so it's kind of like, when we talk about, oh, is your attention the quality of your attention? Most people don't realize that's actually a very technically specific thing, because if your attention is on the quality of your attention is on your attention. And so if your attention is on your attention, if someone were to ask me, what's like the one thing you'd want to teach? I'd actually say, I'd want to teach attention on attention, which is actually what the system is about. Everything else is actually a commentary on attention on attention. It's just basically more and more examples of attention on attention, because if you get attention on attention, then you have everything, because you've got the keys to the kingdom, so to say, because now you are dictating the one thing that determines the experience of everything else. So it's kind of interesting that you started with that comment, kind of as like what you experienced. Oh, I determined that when my attention was on freedom,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sort of suspected it would come back to this.
Could you repeat that?
I kind of suspected it would come back to the same thing. Like, I'm setting myself up for thinking, well, how would you apply that here? Sorry, I just
you like, totally said I agree. You totally what you could set yourself up. You're like 100% genuinely caught. And so now the reason actually, it's taught that way is because there is no answer outside of that. And it's actually not necessarily to give pain. Actually, it is actually specific. It's actually to give a very specific kind of pain. And it's actually changing. It actually seeks to change the nature of the question itself. So the pain is actually, so as you said, you set yourself up, as you said. So you said something very significant, and then you asked the question, and the question actually was rather good. Your question was, what am I looking for? And so now my question comes back to is, what are you looking for? What does it matter what I'm looking for? So now it's interesting because let's say, for instance, if your question was, this is what I look for, this is what I got to experience. Do you have any comments on that? Now, the question actually changes. Do you see how I'm seeking to change the question itself? I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yeah.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why am I seeking to change the question itself?
Because the question itself is, like, the premise of the question is how you're directing your attention. What are you looking
Yes.
for? So if you can't adjust your question, then you're not going to find what you're looking for.
Yes,
It'll
yes,
always be
yes.
external.
That's correct. So if you can't adjust the questions you're asking, your questions give a hint as to where your attention is.
Yeah.
So where I place my attention might actually not have any relevance to where you should place your attention. So I could give you an answer and it could not have any relevance to what you're doing at all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're a true Taoist, you should never actually give fish. You should actually teach the person to fish for themselves. Fishing, meaning here being having a relationship with the universe, feeling connected with the universe, having access to the feeling of connectedness. Now, does it mean that a person should never ask questions? No, of course not. So it's kind of like, it's a good question, actually. It's like the question that you asked is actually a good question. Now that you asked the question, I'm trying to eliminate the question itself. Now, of course, the process of that is where you catch the person where they could have actually asked a different question altogether, if you will.
Yeah. And as you're shifting my question, I feel like I'm already getting the answers that I was looking for.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I was looking at your arms and they're going up and my arms don't want to go up. And I was trying to follow that. And in that I lost the chi flow. So I was doing it not in a way that was relevant for me to feel what you're feeling.
Very good. Isn't it interesting? Not relevant for you to feel what I'm feeling, isn't it interesting? Which means that for you to feel what I was feeling, you needed to do something different. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So what if I actually gave you an answer as to what I'm looking for? Would it solve your problem?
No, because I already know what you're looking for. It's not that complicated. I mean, the details of it, you could probably give me a lot more details, but those wouldn't be relevant either.
Yeah. Right? So now that you've been caught, how do you feel?
I feel good.
Do you feel freer?
Yeah, I do. I feel like there's a lot of these questions that I just haven't exposed to, my own attention because I'm afraid they're like blank spots. And so instead of exploring and actually looking at what would make it satisfying, I'm either trying to not look bad or avoid the work. And so, yeah, it does feel free.
Good. Yeah, there's nothing as freeing as to be caught red-handed. Yeah. That's the irony of life. So anyways, I'd like to say congratulations on being courageous enough to be caught. It is vulnerable to ask questions. That's why most people don't. Because if you ask a question and you meet a good teacher, they will catch you. They will catch you where you're not being responsible for yourself. Because the teacher's job should not be to give you answers. A teacher's job should be, well, it depends on the kind of teacher, but the kind of teacher for what I am. So this is not a value judgment on teaching job itself. For what I'm teaching, a teacher's job should not be to give answers. It should be to extend the exploration of the self-exploration. And so anyways, and to do that, you need to be caught red-handed, like totally, without mercy. And it is a very vulnerable process. So I want to say, good for your courage and good for asking. And I even like that you actually voiced that you felt caught. That in itself is actually very good, since because you actually mentioned that, you even got to explore that aspect of the questioning and answering process. So very good.
Thank you so much, Master Kim, and thank you for being the kind of teacher that catches us and doesn't let us get away with things. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay. So does anyone else want to be caught or exposed, which is to express? Okay, very good. Okay, with that, y'all have a great day and have a fun time catching yourself.
Thank you so much, Master Kim.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Yam.
Welcome.